It's not known what causes rheumatoid flares. Sometimes it's after an infection, sometimes it's after an episode of psychological or physical stress. It's very hard to know why, but sometimes they haven't taken their medication, of course. But the flares are treated all the same, basically, and it comes back to getting them back on the steroids. Now, the one thing I'd like to get across is the danger of continuing a low-grade or low-dose steroid, I should say. We used to be happy some years ago maintaining a 5 milligram maintenance dose, as it were. Those days are gone, I'm afraid. The risk, even on 2.5 milligram steroids, as was shown in a German paper 2 or 3 years ago, is not acceptable. It still has increased risk of infection, bruising, etc., etc. Even at 2.5 milligrams, it's hard to believe, but that's true. So there's no safe dose of steroids. So hopefully they're not on the steroids long term. So you've got the facility of getting the steroids in quickly at a reasonable dose, 30 or 40 milligrams, 30 maybe milligrams per day, with your painkiller, with maybe your anti-inflammatory if they're able to tolerate that, and the steroids would then be continued for about 6 weeks, let's say reducing by 5 milligrams every week to 0 and getting them off the steroids again. Two things will happen. They'll either get off the flare completely, or they'll rebound and demonstrate an ongoing active rheumatoid, which means they'll need more of an they'll need to move to the next level of aggressive treatment, if you like, be it from methotrexate to adding in biologics or changing your biologic or whatever. But I don't think a single flare should be a cause for despondency. It happens. There's lots of reasons for it to happen. It doesn't mean that the patient is ultimately definitely going to end up on a higher or more aggressive treatment level, if you like. Get the treatment in early, treat it aggressively. Hopefully it'll resolve and hopefully it'll die down again and go back to their previous level of activity, if you like. The Irish Society for Rheumatology looks to have patients with suspected inflammatory arthritis seen within latest 6 weeks, ideally 2 weeks. I think it's extremely important that they're seen as soon as possible, that they're prioritised. Now, our GP colleagues can help us prioritise by checking a CRP, checking to see if it's a symmetrical joint problem, and asking that question, the early morning stiffness question: how long does it take to get to your best? And I think those 3 factors, if those 3 factors are recorded on a GP letter, then I'm going to prioritise that patient and see that patient as soon as possible, because it is very important to get seen by somebody who has an expertise, shall we say, in this area, who is willing and able and experienced in treating these patients with early aggressive therapy and monitoring both the disease and the medications, because the medications need as much attention as the disease itself does. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of misinformation about arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis and all kinds of rheumatological conditions. A website that I would recommend would be www.arthritisresearchuk.org.